Coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Coaches Podcast. I am your host, guys, Coach Steve, back with another fantastic episode for you guys. It is week 7 of football tonight. Thursday Night Football is on tonight. If you're watching it, congratulations. 2 old men are playing quarterback this week, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Flacco. It may not be the most entertaining game, but hopefully it is fantasy worthy, at least for us. But it is Thursday, guys, and as you guys know, if you've been listening to our episode as unfrequently as we've been going through this year, we are back on, obviously, on Thursdays doing our favorable and unfavorable matchups for each week. No Coach Tyler this week. It's just me, guys, so it's going to be a pretty quick and fast and informational episode for everyone here. And if you have a question, please feel free to drop it in the chat. More than happy to answer any questions while we're here talking fantasy tonight, guys. So, as you guys all know, if you've been watching or not watching our episodes, I give the almost top 10 most favorable and unfavorable matchups based on fantasy points per game. For each position, we'll do quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end. And I'll kind of give you my take on, if you should start them, if they're a sleeper, if there's a flex play, if you should be sitting them, if you should be avoiding them, different things like that. So, not holding you guys up anymore, let's kind of get into the show today, guys. So, as we always do, we start with quarterbacks, and we always start on a good end here. These are the quarterbacks with the favorable matchups. They're all ranked inside the top 10 for week 7 here. The top 5 right now, you have Jayden Daniels, Dillon Gabriel, Caleb Williams, Spencer Rattler, and Dak Prescott. Again, some of them are pretty easy. Like, you're going to start Jayden Daniels. Obviously, it's a must-start option there. Quarterback, Caleb Williams and Dak Prescott, for me, if you have them on your team there, for the most part, you're starting them. They've been putting up at least 20 fantasy points each and every single week here, and I don't see either of them slowing down. Obviously, even with Dak Prescott likely getting CeeDee Lamb back this week here. Now, the 2 interesting ones are obviously Dillon Gabriel and Spencer Rattler. I think Dillon Gabriel does have some flex appeal to his game there. Miami, while everyone's gushing over the run game this week that Miami has to go against, they also have given up passing touchdowns each and every single week, at least 2 passing touchdowns to each of the opposing quarterbacks they have faced. Dillon Gabriel, again, has been inconsistent at best. This could be a nice sleeper appeal week, probably better in Superflex leagues than a 1-quarterback league, or maybe in a deep man league, but he definitely has some more appeal to him. Spencer Rattler is someone who I think is kind of underrated as a fantasy quarterback this year. He's put up decent fantasy numbers overall, between 16 and 17 fantasy points in most weeks here. And again, he gets the Bears this week here. The Bears have been a defense that has struggled to stay healthy. And I think Spencer Rattler can at least give you decent numbers. Someone that you can trust probably more in Superflex leagues, as I've mentioned, be kind of to Dillon Gabriel. And again, maybe a deep streaming option in deeper man leagues that are single quarterback league. But again, the guys you want to know the most about is Daniels, Caleb Williams, and Dak Prescott. Now, the rest of the top 10 fantasy quarterbacks, there's only a couple more. And, I exclude matchups like Thursday Night Football. I exclude any people that are on bye weeks, obviously, like this week. So you might see a few less filled sections here. But the rest of the guys, Baker Mayfield, Bryce Young, and Jared Goff. Now, Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff are facing off against each other. I'm expecting that Bucs and Lions game to be a higher scoring game this week here. Baker Mayfield may be getting Mike Evans back here. And even if he doesn't, he's been so solid, especially with his ability to rush on the ground, something that the Detroit Lions have been very favorable to their opposing quarterbacks this season here. So Baker Mayfield, Jared Goff, great starts this week here. They should put up really strong fantasy numbers for your lineups. Bryce Young, for me, they're playing the Jets. Yes, everyone's like, oh, the Jets are a sneaky great matchups. But the Jets defense can be really tough at times. Their offense is terrible. I think we're going to see another similar game to a couple of weeks ago where they're going to just run the ball and and play defense. And that's what I think the Panthers are going to do overall, because I don't think they're going to be in need of using Bryce Young's arm as much as we've seen in previous weeks here for the Panthers, where they've had to play catch up or at least stay on top of an offense that have been a throwing, scoring machine like Dallas last week. I don't expect Bryce Young to see 2 touchdowns in this game, 250 plus yards. It's going to be probably 170 and a touchdown at best. Hey, Albert, how are you? Welcome into the show. And so for me, despite it being a favorable matchup for Bryce Young, he's someone I'm not trusting in week 7 still. All right, let's head over to the unfavorable matchups here. The top 5 unfavorable matchups for this week: Sam Darnold, Jackson Dart, Jalen Hurts, Drake May, Brock Purdy / Mac Jones. We don't know. We don't have official news if or not Brock Purdy is playing in week 7. So starting at the top, Sam Darnold has been very good, obviously, in the last few weeks here, having really strong fantasy numbers here. But Houston has been a team that has allowed minimal touchdowns to opposing quarterbacks this year. They've only allowed 4 passing touchdowns, and they're coming fresh off a bye here. They're going to be well rested here. And I just expect Sam Darnold to struggle a little bit more than he has in the last few weeks here. The matchups in the last few weeks have been a little bit better for him. He's definitely been an option as a sleeper option over the last few weeks. But this week, I think Sam Darnold is someone you want to stay away from. Again, he's been very heavy, and on JSN, and if the team figures that out, if he throws anywhere else, it could end up being a really bad day for him. Jackson Dart has been obviously fantastic for the last few weeks. Everyone loves Jackson Dart right now. The rushing upside with his 50 yards rushing in the last 3 games. But they're playing the Denver Broncos. I'm not sure if the Denver Broncos will be jet lagged from being in London this past week here. But their team, that defense is tough. And it's really tough. And Jackson Dart has been a quarterback that has struggled as a passer. Yes, the rushing floor is fantastic, and that might keep him afloat if you do start him. But I think it could be trouble this week. Again, you can only go so many weeks without having a really strong receiving core. And again, Darius Slayton may or not play. Wando Robinson's a solid wide receiver 3, but I can't rely on little Jordan Humphreys to be a strong wide receiver for Jackson Dart every single week here. So I think this week, I'm sitting him if I have him. I'm going to let him show me that he can be a great quarterback against a strong defense, then rather than trust him and then him fail. Jalen Hurts, you start him. Obviously, he's got a rushing upside, and he just finds a way to at least put up 18 fantasy points in most weeks here, despite even in a tough matchup or whatnot. Minnesota coming up fresh off a bye as well. I'm not as happy about their defense, or confident in their defense, than I am Houston's defense there. I think Jalen Hurts will be able to put up decent fantasy numbers and give you a really solid week. Same thing with Drake May. The Titans, again, they don't give up a lot of fantasy points to quarterbacks. This is because they can be ran on very easily, and you'll find out about that in just a minute here. Drake May is someone who I think has just shown us that he is on a breakout rampage this year. You still start him. He should be fine in this matchup here. And then obviously, like I said, Brock Purdy, Mac Jones, they played the Atlanta Falcons this week. And if you didn't see the Atlanta Falcons on Monday Night Football, yeah, it's going to be tough for both these quarterbacks. It's going to be a lot of dump off passes probably to Christian McCaffrey, but it's hard to want to trust them in this really bad matchup this week. Personally, Falcons have been a little bit better on defense. And again, they showed us last week that if you're injured, especially that offensive line in San Francisco, they're going to attack you. And I think it could be a bad day for both Brock Purdy and Mac Jones, 2 players who aren't the most mobile of all quarterbacks, especially Mac Jones. All right, heading over to – oh, no, there's more quarterbacks. I'm sorry, I forgot. The rest of the quarterbacks with unfavorable matchups: Trevor Lawrence, Daniel Jones, Patrick Mahomes, Tua Tagovailoa, and Jordan Love here. Trevor Lawrence, I'm sitting. I know it's a home game probably for the Cardinals over there in London, and the Cardinals with the Jaguars in London, but the Rams defense has been really strong and on point this season here. And Trevor Lawrence, again, I'm not a Trevor Lawrence fan. I just think that he relies way too much on his wide receivers than his own passing play. I think it could end up being a really poor outing for a guy like Trevor Lawrence in week 7. I'm so sorry. He's been pretty consistent overall, depending no matter who he's playing. I know people are a little sus on his matchups this season here and how the Colts are fighting around. But the Chargers aren't the strongest defense in the world, and I think this could be a higher scoring game where we're going back and forth with the Colts and the Chargers in week 7. So I think Daniel Jones should be fine. Patrick Mahomes, he's just been such a good quarterback this year. He has really stepped back up, and he's getting Rishi Rice back. I want to start him anyway there. I'm not overly concerned with the Raiders' defense, despite it being supposedly an unfavorable matchup this week. Just start starting him. Yeah, I don't want to start him. His consistency is too tough to handle, and again, the Browns' front seven is really strong now. Miami's offensive line has been horrendous this coming season here. I think it could be a really poor outing for Tua this week. Multiple turnovers like he's had in the last few games now. Jordan Love, I know it's a sit. Again, I'm not overly concerned with the matchup per se of the Cardinals, but we all saw last week. It was a favorable matchup, and Josh Jacobs ran 2 touchdowns. And that's unfortunately what we're dealing with there in the Packers offense, is that there's no confidence in allowing the passing game to be the determining factor. They're running the ball. Jordan Love's playing game management kind of play, and I don't want to trust that in fantasy because a game manager on the NFL field is not what I want in fantasy football. Jordan Love, he's a sit for me this week. All right, over to the running backs. Now we're back to the favorable matchups here. Starting out at the top, Rhamondre Stevenson and TreVeyon Henderson here. Again, the Titans have one of the worst run defenses in football. Again, for me, it flexes that best because I just don't really know what to do with either one of them. It seems like you want to start both of them. I think Henderson is I don't have much confidence in. The only reason I have confidence in Stevenson is because he has shown us this year that he is the guy around the goal line, and I would expect a touchdown from Rhamondre Stevenson this week here. Could this be TreVeyon Henderson's big breakout game? Absolutely. I think you want to throw him in a flex spot and hope for it's going to be a boom and bust day from either one of them. I think that's how it's going to end up being here, and that's a flex-worthy play. Not someone you can truly play with confidence, but flex-worthy. Again, similar. Like, I expected a little bit better of a game from him last week. He fumbled. I don't know if maybe that might shake his confidence with the coaching staff a little bit. Maybe use Chris Rodriguez a little bit more, Jeremy McNichols. But Bill Crosby being there, for me, is just a flex play there. Like, again, if you want a boom-bust play there, that's what he is, a boom-bust play, and hoping that he can hit a long one this week there. Again, the matchup's even more favorable than last week. So, again, for me, it's a flex play. I don't trust him with 100% confidence either. Must-start option. He's getting up over 150 rushing yards in back-to-back weeks. He is going to eat in this matchup. Alvin Kamara and Kennedy Miller. For me, again, they're kind of similar to flex at best. Like, I don't trust them completely because they've been so inefficient this year. There's obviously a split going on between him and Alvin Kamara and Kennedy Miller. Again, Alvin Kamara is probably fine for 10 fantasy points, maybe hopefully more, but at least 10 to 12. Miller is probably good for 6 to 8, and again, maybe her score a touchdown, but just because it's a favorable matchup does not mean I trust them with all this confidence. Again, they're flex plays at best. Jordan Mason, I'm starting Jordan Mason. We saw last week that Cam Skattebo just ran all over the Eagles' defense line. If Jalen Carter's out again, which at the moment I don't think he is playing, Jordan Mason, coming fresh off a bye, is going to just dominate the ground there, and I think they're going to use him, especially if J.J. McCarthy is back on the field. They're going to want to establish the run, so he gives him time to make his throws that he needs to make. Mason's a start this week. Two more matchups here. Josh Jacobs, must-start. Josh Jacobs, you start him. He's scoring a touchdown every single week here. You have to start him. And Chuba Hubbard. Looks like Chuba's coming back this week here. So what does that do for this Panthers offense? Who the heck knows, guys? I would assume that they're going to want to ease Chuba Hubbard back in a little bit. Rico's probably going to get a little bit more. Again, I think it was like a 60-30 split at some point in the early portion of the season. I would assume that's going to be 50-50. I don't assume they're going to give him at least the same workload, if not getting Rico more. I think Rico is the start for sure, and Chuba is the sit. I'm going to wait week and see what his offense goes to, but I don't know how you don't give Chuba at least, not Chuba, but Rico at least 12 to 13 carries on the ground because he's just been so dominant on the ground. And again, it's another favorable matchup for him. Matchups for week. Off the top is Devon Achane. I'm still with him still. Yes, we loved his breakaway speed last week that he showed us, but again, he's going to be a reception guy, and that's what's going to keep him as a floor player this week here.
I still like him enough to play him in that sense there. I don't expect him to have over 50 rushing yards in this game, but for him to have 6 to 7 receptions, you can probably count on that pretty well. Michael Carter, this week they played the Packers. They have a really strong running defense there. And we could see a switch again. It could be Michael Carter this week as the main guy, and Bam takes the back seat. So for me, I really see another week, but just because they gave Bam the work last week does not mean he's going to get the workload this week. Travis Etienne, sit him if you can. You want not to because he's a little more of a proven starter over the last month of the season so far right now. And you might be forced to start him because of the way the things have turned out for running backs. But for me, I would prefer to sit Travis Etienne. Rams have been a really strong run defense. And again, it could end up being like a 40-yard game for Etienne, but he'll get a touchdown and will make his day decent. Christian McCaffrey, you start. Obviously, he's a reception machine there. He gets almost 100 all-purpose yards every single week there. I'm perfectly fine with him. Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, I'm sitting both of them. Spears is continuing to get more and more involved in the offense there, and I'm really concerned that this is going to eventually turn back into a 50-50 split. It's not a great matchup there. Yes, I know that Mike McCoy is now the interim head coach there. Maybe things get spiced up a little bit, but I think if anything's going to get spiced up, it's going to be the passing game there and not as much as the run game. So. Moving on to the rest of the unfavorable matchups. For sure, you start him. He's just been the value he's getting in that offense is too good, especially if the Bucs are continuing to be without a wide receiver, especially if Mike Evans doesn't play or get receptions. And again, I just got to hope for a touchdown with Rachaad White this week here. He's fine for me. Give me the bulldozer. He has been just amazing these last couple of weeks now. And they seem to have a lot of faith and trust in him, and he's obviously their goal line 5-yard back. So for me, I'm still starting him. I'm fine, even in a difficult matchup. Hassan Haskins, I'm trying to flex on this. I don't know how he rushed for 120 plus yards like he did against Miami last week, but kind of get 80 yards maybe still, maybe a touchdown, maybe. I think he's flex worthy at best. Not 100% faith in him, but good enough to flex. Same with Woody Marks and Nick Chubb. I think Woody Marks might be the better guy to start. Usually rookies coming off a bye week do see an uptake in production. That's what I'm hoping for with Marks. And again, another flex at best kind of running back. Over to the favorite wide receivers here. Start at the top. We have Deebo Samuel, the Commanders wide receivers. Now, Deebo did not practice, and this is a Thursday. That might change come Friday. He might be fine. If he plays, you start him, obviously. He's got a fantastic matchup. If not, who you play? I mean, Chris Moore has really stepped up a little bit as the number 2 guy with Terry McLaurin, who I assume is going to miss another week. Chris Moore becomes a sleeper flex player this week here. I know maybe not your normal 10, maybe even 12-man leagues. Maybe 12-man leagues. But it's in Dynasty, maybe in a 16 or 14-man league. Like Chris Moore becomes an interesting play. If I've taken a shot on someone else, maybe Jeremy Lane is a guy that kind of steps up. He's got a lot of speed in his game, and this would be perfect kind of game for him. Next up is the Bucs wide receivers. Now, Mike Evans plays. I'm trusting Mike Evans to start, no matter what. If he plays, I'm trusting him. Sterling Shepard, I think no matter the situation, Sterling Shepard offers flex value this week here. For sure, he should be fine. Ted Johnson definitely becomes a sleeper kind of option if there is no Mike Evans. I think I would put a little bit more faith in he may actually end up playing. But end up seeing some production in this game. But again, if Mike Evans plays, it's probably a no for me then. Rashad Shaheed, both flex plays. I'm both fine flexing them this week here. I'm not overly confident in them just because of their lack of production, consistent production. But they're both flex plays. Rashad Shaheed has the boom play and offers the floor. Next up is the Denver Broncos wide receivers. Courtland Sutton is a start option there. I expect him to kind of bounce back after being kind of a poor week for him last week here. I like his matchup against the Giants. Troy Franklin, the Giants are one of the highest targets to slots wide receivers this year, and Franklin is around a 50% slot used rate. So I think he ends up seeing a little bit more in terms of targets this weekend. And again, if one or two of them goes off really well for him, he has a really big chance to take a big play to the house. So I do like Franklin this week. Next up is the Chargers wide receivers. Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston. You start all of them. If they play, you start them all. Because you just don't know who's going to end up being very good. Again, I really do believe that Colts-Chargers game is going to be higher scoring. And I'm going to start all of them. And one of them is going to go off and be the best. I'm hoping that they all can. So I like them all in this week's matchup. The next few guys here, I'm starting Brown a week last week. I expect him to bounce back against the Saints. DJ Brown to sit. He did come out of the hospital after Monday Night Football last week here. He is back at practice, but again, coming off the bye, kind of complained about his running offense. Didn't really see much improvement there. So I'm going to sit him for the time being. I guess you could flex him at best, but I'm going to sit DJ Moore. The Rams are wide receivers. The Rams is a must-start option, obviously, no matter what the situation is. And then put him in practice at all this week so far. So for me, I think that's going to end up leaning to him not playing in week 7 and have him be fresh. Obviously, the Rams have a bye next week. If he is out, Jordan Wellington and Tutu Atwell do become sleeper options here. Jordan Wellington kind of filled in the production last week. So if I'm going to take one of the two of these guys, it's probably Whittington and see if his role ends up being really solid and the production there. Again, Jaguars have been a favorable matchup for wide receivers this year. Next up is the Chiefs wide receivers. Rishi Rice first came back, you start him. He's a start. I love him. He's a great wide receiver. Outside of being a wide receiver, but as a wide receiver, great. Xavier Worthy, I'm still going to start him. I still believe that this offense has play set up for him in particular, that they want to use his speed for it, and I don't think just because Rishi Rice is back, his role goes away. I think, if anything, his role evolves into something different, and it could end up being really good for both these guys. Jalen, he's shown us the last 2 weeks without Tyreek Hill that he is an 8 or 9 target guy pretty easily. He's going to get you 70 to 80 yards pretty consistently, so I'm starting him as well. To the unfavorable matchups this week, AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, the Vikings. They're flex at best. I don't want to really trust them if I don't have to, but they do offer flex play at best because they're going to see maybe close to 10 fantasy points to come, but each one of them. It's not great, but again, it's decent. Warren Robinson, flex play. I'm not as scared at him because he is in the slot, but it's going to be a reception floor for him. That's what's going to keep his fantasy production propped up. Colts wide receivers, Michael Pittman. If Josh Downs doesn't look like he's practicing this week as much, if Downs is out, Pittman becomes, I think, a pretty solid flex play. I don't think it's going to be a pretty flex play, but it will be solid enough. And Alec Pierce will probably end up going to sit in this matchup here. So over the Seattle wide receivers, JSN is a must-start option. He has been a machine this year. He obviously is Sam Darnold's number one target, and he's going to see probably 12-plus targets once again in this matchup here. So I'm happy with JSN. Probably going to set Cooper Kupp in this week here. Houston has been pretty good against slot wide receivers this year, and Kupp has been super inconsistent. And in a tough matchup, I don't want to trust that. Chicago Bears, Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker has been actually pretty consistent, averaging almost 10 fantasy points per game this year, and he should be okay at flex. I think Myers ends up having the better week. I think the Chiefs are a little bit better at the downfield throws, and then I think Myers working underneath should end up being pretty solid. But I think both of them can offer you flex plays for sure this week in fantasy. Matchups, Josh Reynolds, the Jets wide receiver core. I'm sitting any Jets wide receiver. I don't even know who I'm going to start. Maybe Josh Reynolds, but I cannot trust any of them. For the wide receivers, Kevin Brown is the only one I want to start this week. If he plays, and especially if it's Mac Jones, I do want to flex him at least. Start him, flex him. He's been the most consistent option there. I know it's the Falcons wide receivers, but I like Kendrick Bourne a lot this week here. Jerome Jennings, Ricky Pearsall. Ricky might be coming back this week. I don't want to trust them in their first game back. And Jennings showed me that he's not healthy yet, even though he was playing last week. So for me, it's only Kendrick Bourne in week 7. Wide receivers. Brian Thomas Jr. has seen a good uptake in his production the last few weeks now. I'm still flexing him at best. He'll be fine in fantasy. I think his targets and his share and his workload is good enough that they're going to probably be playing a little bit of catch up. And see his targets. Travis Hunter, I didn't see a decent game out of him first. So until for me, he's just a sit this week. Cardinals wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy, Zebon. Like I said, I mentioned earlier with only 2 touchdown passes this week. Could it be Jeudy? Maybe. I'm probably sitting both of them this week here because they haven't not averaging any fantasy points per game, and I think it's going to be another position that ends up doing very well in 10th later. But I'm sitting these wide receivers. Back to Mario Dobbs. Again, they're flex players at best. I don't expect that the Packers will have the throw hold a ton, especially if Jacoby Brissett is starting. Godwin's the upside player. Dobbs is the floor player. Over to tight ends. Week 7 tight ends with favorable matchups. Mason Taylor. I'm starting Mason Taylor this week. If you have him and you don't have an elite tight end option already, like the targets have to go somewhere. And I think that if they're going to go somewhere, they're going to go to Breece Hall and they're going to go to Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor has shown us he can be an 8 to 9 target pass catcher, and I think he will be. John Taylor Sanders in his first game back here. Like I said, Bush Young won't probably have to throw the ball all that much. It's a very good matchup for Sanders. I think I'm just going to sit him and wait for a better overall game script for the Panthers. Harold Fanning, David Njoku playing the Dolphins. I'm starting both of them. And if David Njoku's out, I am starting the heck out of Harold Fanning everywhere. But if they both play, I'm still starting both of them. I think they both have solid outings. Trey McBride, there's no questions about that. You start him. Chig Okonkwo, again, he's been a little decent at times this year. We don't really see it that much. He doesn't really pop that big on the screen. But, again, they're going to change some things up there in hopefully Tennessee, and hopefully Okonkwo, they can kind of use his speed as a mismatch over the middle of the field. And I think there's some decent sleeper appeal for him in Week 7. Going over to the next group here, the Bears tight ends, Cole Kmet, Colston Loveland. I'm not starting them. They haven't shown to me at all that they can be trusted in fantasy lineups right now. Until one of them breaks through, even for a bye week here, I'm not trusting any Bears tight end right now. Darren Waller, yeah, you start him. He's a touchdown machine. He's had a touchdown every single game he started this year. I'm playing him, no questions asked. Tucker Kraft, he's been a solid fantasy tight end this year. I'm starting both those guys in this week, especially with both the favorable matchups. Tight ends with unfavorable matchups. George Kittle. If he plays, which it looks like he's leaning towards playing, I'm still starting George Kittle here. I'm not overly concerned with Atlanta, and they have a really good ability to stop tight ends this year. George Kittle is just a different kind of beast, and I'm okay starting him even in a really tough matchup. T.J. Hockenson, I'm sitting him. He's been so inconsistent this year, and especially if J.J. McCarthy comes back and starts this week, I don't really have faith in that passing game outside of Justin Jefferson and maybe Jordan Addison. T.J. Hockenson kind of falls to the waistline for me, and I'm sitting him this week if I can. Blake Johnson is a little interesting. He just kind of seen an uptick in productions over the last few weeks here, especially with Jackson Dart at quarterback. It is a tough matchup against the Broncos, but I think Blake Johnson is the sit, but don't be surprised if he scores a touchdown this week and get you 8 points. So Michael Mayer, I'm still starting Michael Mayer. The Raiders do use their tight end very much in their offense there, and Mayer has showed us that, hey, there was a reason why I was a former second-round pick here. Like, give me the ball. I'm expecting Brock Bowers to miss one more week. AJ Brown has been a bit of a surprise, playing very well in this Seattle offense, but I don't trust them against I can't even think right now. Against the Texans this week here. I'm probably going to sit him back down again. I think JSN may be the only one in that offense that ends up performing very well in fantasy football. So, okay, final slide, guys. Quick 30-minute episode, guys. Getting all your fantasy takes so great. Isn't that great? Hunter Henry, again, another inconsistent play in fantasy. I don't know if the Patriots will need to throw the ball that much, so I'm going to sit Hunter Henry this week. Tyler Warren, you start him. He's just been so fantastic in fantasy. And again, you saw the Chargers last week give up another touchdown to a tight end. I think Tyler Warren can end up doing the same. Same with Travis Kelce. He's actually done a little bit better over the last 2 weeks now, and I am pretty confident that even if with Rishi Rice back, he should be at least still a start. Again, he might be the only one where I'm like, ooh, I could see him being a sit, but I'm still going to start Travis Kelce. And Zach Ertz, if there's no Debo, I'm starting Zach Ertz. If there is a Debo, I probably won't be starting Zach Ertz as much in this matchup here. So, but that is going to wrap everything up for us today, guys. Again, I told you, it was a quick episode for you guys today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully it was informational for you guys. If you guys want to see this in full, not just on the YouTube channel or on Spotify, I do post this over on our TikTok. It will be out probably tonight or tomorrow morning. And that is at I think it's Coach Steve's Fantasy. Hold on. I will find out for you guys, of course. I don't know these things off the top of my head. But it is the Fantasy Coaches Podcast on TikTok if you want to see these full slides here. And if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, we appreciate you guys as well watching it in and whatnot. But, so we'll be back next Thursday, guys, doing week 8. We'll also be back on Monday doing the waiver wire episode. I'm assuming Coach Tyler will be back for that. He just couldn't make it on the show tonight. So, but that is all I got for you guys. Thank you all for tuning in and listening. Tune in until next time, everyone. Enjoy week 7.